It's 7:36 p.m. in Pretoria, and it's Hamid Zaourai from Embassy of Iran in South Africa. These days, we all are witnessing the brutal act of the US regime against its own people. We all, as humans, must show our solidarity and sympathy with oppressed people of the USA. And apartheid exists in new era. This is what Imam Khomeini and Nelson Mandela fought against. Knee on the neck is the strategy of racist regimes of the USA and Israel implementing on people of the world. The own people of USA now are the victims of this hegemonic strategy. Now with me, I have my dear brother, Mohammed Khaled, who is the provincial chairperson of the ANC Youth League in Western Cape and member of Western Cape Provincial Parliament, who since his days as a student activist has been promoting awareness around Imam Khomeini and the Islamic Revolution. As I understand, his main subject is Imam Khomeini in context of fighting against racism and COVID-19. Salamun alaikum, brother. Please start your speech. We are all here.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, my brother, and to the leadership of the Islamic Republic of Iran and to the embassy. Let me firstly thank the hosts for putting together a wonderful program. A program that actually, really by paying tribute to the late Imam Ayatollah Khomeini, alongside our founding father of this democracy, President Nelson Mandela, really appropriate. Now, it is within the context of a global upsurge in the fight against racism that we commemorate the demise of our beloved Imam Khomeini this evening. A fight against racism that has been stimulated by an act of by an act of murder, actually, by police officers in the United States, a country that has always claimed to be the bastion of freedom, the bastion of democracy, and a major aggressor against the Islamic Republic of Iran and an enemy of the revolution in Iran. Now, this particular opposition against what we've seen in the USA, we've seen it manifesting itself throughout the globe. But we know that one of the major principles that Imam Khomeini stood for, and why it's appropriate that he's linked this evening to President Nelson Mandela, is the opposition to racism in each and every form. When Imam Khomeini led the Islamic Revolution and the revolution triumphed over the Shah, one of the major aspects that he stood for was the issue of discrimination that you found in the Muslim world. He spoke against the fact that many in the Muslim world look down upon those who are African. He spoke against the fact that there were Persians who would look down on Arabs and Arabs looking down on Persians. It was a major theme in the discourse of the late Imam Khomeini. And this is why Imam Khomeini stood with the oppressed people of South Africa, because he saw apartheid as wrong. And we heard from the previous speaker, Professor Harun Aziz, as to how the Islamic Republic under Imam Khomeini's leadership cut off ties with apartheid South Africa. You had, during the time of the Shah, Iranians were considered to be honorary whites in South Africa. Imam Khomeini came and dismantled those relations because he fought against a despotic and a racist regime. The fact that the Shah supported apartheid meant that the Shah was a racist and was leading a racist regime. So, and in fact, Imam Khomeini's entire vision in starting Al-Quds Day, in practically supporting the resistance, the resistance against apartheid Israel, was also a symbol of his opposition against racism. Now, coming to our current context as well, the COVID-19, and we want to pay our respects and our support to the people of Iran for how they have been able to navigate through this deadly virus. It's now facing our people in this country, particularly placing the most vulnerable poor who don't have access to proper health care, placing them at a severe disadvantage. Now, it's that same spirit. Imam Khomeini and the vision behind the revolution was one of love for humanity, an undying love and complete love for humanity, selflessness. We look at the way even in which the Imam lived when he became the leader of the Islamic Republic, when he was in exile, his thought. Now, that spirit of undying love for humanity and solidarity is what can carry us through our resistance to this particular virus in many, many small ways. The fact that we sacrifice ourselves to say, instead of going out and socializing, we're thinking of the well-being of the next person, particularly the poorest of the poor, to prevent the spread of this disease. And it is within that context also that COVID-19, within the spirit of Imam Khomeini's fight against imperialism and his fight for a more just world, that COVID-19 presents us with an opportunity to actually build a more equal and a more just world. Because the problems we are facing as a result of COVID really illustrate the kind of inequalities we have in this country, the kind of inequalities we have in this world. The fact that we all need each other, we need to work towards a better world. But let me conclude by saying that this was possible. Imam was able to wage a relentless fight against the Shah's regime, a regime that was funded and abetted by the global powers and imperialists. He was able to do that because Imam Khomeini held firmly to a tradition. He was an embodiment of a tradition, of a spiritual tradition, which gave him a sense of discipline. Discipline and vision is needed if we ought to successfully fight racism, if we ought to get out of this virus and build a better world. Imam Khomeini's vision of truth was based on a tradition of following the family of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, following the family of the Prophet, following our beloved Prophet to the letter. Years of training of cultivating his sense of self-discipline in the areas of mysticism, understanding Islamic history, understanding jurisprudence, and understanding the emotive aspect as to why one has an attachment to the family of the Prophet. Because it's a family that stood for justice. Imam Ali alayhi salam, whom we've commemorated in Ramadan, voice of human justice, Sawtil Adalata bin Nas. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's because of Imam Khomeini, as previous speakers have said, that here in South Africa, the commemoration of Ashura in a very, very traditional manner, a manner that encapsulates Imam Hussein's justice, but that's also deeply emotive and in line with the cultural practices, that could become popularized to an extent here in South Africa because of that revolution. So we are grateful for that. So Imam was grounded in that tradition. Because of that particular grounding and spirituality, he was then able to unite the camp of the oppressed people, regardless of religion, regardless of their political views, and stand up against pettiness. In fact, Imam said, do not keep saying unity, unity, but then not go after it in your practical actions. So it's a lesson to us, even us who claim to be those who support Imam Khomeini, those who even are attached to the spiritual tradition that Imam Khomeini was grounded in, the tradition of Ahlul Bayt and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to follow that particular tradition in not being petty, not having a Kharijite mentality, those who fought Imam Ali alayhi salam, those who actually fought Imam Khomeini from outside, not to have that mentality of it's my way or the highway, to do away with a linear thinking. Because as we build a more just world and a just society, it is going to be led only, and it's going to culminate in that if we stand together, but we don't view things in a linear sense. We are able to listen to the next individual, even if we differ here and there. We're able to ensure that we unite on what is common, in the spirit of akhlaq, in the spirit of talking to each other with reason and with love and compassion. For that was the tradition of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, which Imam Khomeini was completely grounded in. I thank you.
Thank you, brother. I also thank you. Thank
Wa
you for
alaikum salam wa
giving
rahmatullahi wa
that,
barakatuh.
and thanks for that comprehensive speech you presented in our program. All the best. And
Shukran.
my salutes from Pretoria to you in Cape Town. Hope we can see each other in Pretoria or Cape Town or somewhere else. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, we will
Have a good
once
day.
we are in safe hands. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
brother. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.